breakthrough. I'm hoping you do get to go out and fly that thing tomorrow, because hopefully it'll be sunny for a little while.
W5FC.
Well, being a linguist, I had a German friend over at the apartment a couple days ago, and he wanted to discuss things in German for politics that I didn't want to get into. And I ended up telling him, you're stepping into treacherous territory, I'd rather not go there. And he's like, try me out. Not knowing that he spoke Chinese, I ended up telling him in Chinese to go jump in a lake, which in the Chinese version comes across in a more metaphorical sense of go to hell, but it would literally be go jump in a lake. And he looked at me funny, and not knowing that I understand Turkish because I've been studying it for about 9 months, he told me to go fly a kite. So this was about a week and a half ago. So I picked up my kite and headed for the door and invited him to leave so I could take his advice. And so I went and did that, and it was a nice day to do so. But ever since then, the weather's been messed up. I think I would love to go do it again, but definitely not tomorrow.
There's envy people who speak multiple languages. I struggle with English half the time. KG5HFP.
Well, I don't get it because, no offense to anybody out there, I just don't understand how anybody could survive on only one. Most people I know speak at least two. A good part of the people I hang out with speak 3 or 4. But, yeah, I'm the rare bird. I speak multiple. And it's, sometimes we do get into these little weird conversations where you testing someone's ability on a language you don't think they understand, and you find out they do, and it gets really embarrassing really fast.
It's one of those things that I always envy the people that grew up in Europe, because you're an hour from a different language and a different culture and a different country even. Because if you grow up there, you're almost born speaking multiple languages. Here, you learn English for the most part, and then in high school or college you take a course that teaches you some of another, but unless you use it all the time, I mean, I took Spanish, and I can kind of decipher what people are saying, but I'm not fluent by any stretch.
Well, I have somewhere between 2 and 8 years of about 6 different foreign languages, and I speak 4 others that I never had formal training on, but that's okay. I learned them anyway. And I'm in process of learning an additional 6 right now. And it's just kind of a strange, one of those eccentric things that I just love understanding foreign cultures. And you can't understand the culture without understanding at least part of their language.
It's just one of those things that it's always so easier if you grow up with it and you're exposed to it. If somebody points to an apple and says, okay, that's an apple, and it's whatever it is in the other language, it's easy to associate. But when you learn it all in one language, then you have to mentally transpose that later. That's where it seems like it's much harder.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Well, I'll make this my last transmission because net's about to start, but basically the problem for most people is they learn the new vocabulary, okay, but don't understand the grammar. And you can't force French or German or Spanish or Chinese or any other language to work within the grammar constraints of English, because that's just not the way that the language works. And you have to learn both the grammar and the vocabulary, and that most people struggle with that. But oh well. KS6LZQ going clear.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? This is KFI PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? Without direction from net control, that would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, a featured constellation or object or topic, recent astronomical discoveries, space exploration and space history, visible passages, satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. We'll try to get to all these parts if we can. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do the check-in honors, please.
I'll do exactly that. Thank you, Ms. Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'm alternate net control this evening. We'll go ahead and take low power short time check-ins first. If you would, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power or short time. Please come out. Okay, we'll go ahead and take regular check-ins, general check-ins. Please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Julia Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Farmers Branch.
Kilo 5, Kilo, Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Quinlan.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton.
Kilo 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Alpha November Papa, Alan in Dallas. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Quebec and Delta, Quebec, Eric and Garland. Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. 5, Whiskey Oscar India, William and Alan.
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brendan DeSoto.
Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Mike Zulu, Sean and Alan.
Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert and Richardson.
All right, not bad on the first round here. Let me go ahead and acknowledge everyone I got, and I think there may be a double in here. If you don't hear your call, then you were part of that double. I've got K5JHA, Chaz, Farmers Branch, K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan, KG5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James in Carrollton, NT5TM Tony in Dallas, K5 Alpha November Papa, Alan in Dallas, K5QDQ, Eric in Garland, K5ZBL, Mr. Bill in Farmers Branch, good seeing you today, by the way, N5WOI, William and Alan, WB50ZL, Miss Brendan DeSoto, good seeing you, KG5FMZ, Sean of the Living in Dallas, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. I'll take additional check-ins now. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn and Louisville.
On Echolink, I'll take Echolink check-ins now. If you'd like to join us, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. If you have audio, otherwise just chat and let me, in the chat box, let me know that you would like to be recognized. Echolink only, please come now.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey J near Weatherford.
Kilo India 5, Bravo November Papa, Luis, Fort Worth.
Kilo Charlie 5, Oscar Zulu Tango, Carolyn and Louisville.
All right, let's see here. I've got a correction here. Kilo Golf 5, Alpha Mike Zulu Sean over in Dallas. I noticed you over in Echolink here, and I have you checked in. I got KC50ZT, Miss Carolyn in Louisville. I think you squashed me, and I just didn't know it. So I've got you checked in, KG5BZWJ near Weatherford, KI5 Bravo November Papa, Luis in Fort Worth. Any additional check-ins before we get started?
KI6LZQ, but I'll stay in text mode if I can. I'm on Echolink.
Okay, I got you, Michael, and you are checked in. You're number 14 on the list. Miss Lee, I'll give the net back to you. This is KE5ICX.
Great, thank you, Tom. This is KFI's PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, let's go ahead and get started with general announcements, and welcome to all who have checked in. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If so, please come now with your call sign.
Number Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tango 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell, just with a late check-in.
K5, KTS.
Okay, great. Yeah, Tom, if you'll just mark John down, K5JDW, as a late check-in. And let's get started with announcements. So we'll turn to Tony, NT5TM. Good evening. What announcements do you have for us?
Billy, it's always great to hear you. My first announcement is unusual. I only found out about it this evening. Tomorrow from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m., there is an operating event. A group of 2-meter enthusiasts is sponsoring the Light Up 2-meter Simplex operating activity. It runs from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow, local time, wherever you are. 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. tomorrow, wherever you are. Just get on 146.52 or listen and say hi to whoever you can. Throw out your call sign, see who you can talk with. I notice that there are a lot of amateurs on this net who are very well equipped. I can hear you on Simplex from East Dallas. That even includes Kelly and Quinlan. You don't sound good, but I can tell you're talking. So I'd like to spread the word about Light Up 2 meters tomorrow from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Let's just get on the air and say hi to one another on 14652 without using a repeater. It's especially easy to do that tomorrow because it is a fourth Sunday. There is no meeting on the air and no Racy's training net. So after the traffic net or even during it, just pop over to 146.520. Now, we do have a great net coming up on Monday at 7 p.m. on this repeater. We have the Geek Net. This Monday's theme is going to be common misconceptions, things people think they know that just are not so. There's a lot of things I thought I knew that aren't true. So please join us this Monday at 7 for GeekNet, and we'll talk about common misconceptions, things that we'll, anything from an old wives' tale to an old husband's tale to a superstition. Finally, this is not the last net of the evening. Please join us for the Afterglow movie discussion right here at 10:30 p.m. I know Tom or Brenda will talk more about that. It's always a fun net. I don't know if I can stay up for it tonight. I'm pretty sleepy. But it's a lot of fun, and it's right here at 10:30. Thank you for listening. Please have a look at w5fc.org. There's lots of information both about Skynet and the announcements from TechNet, swaps, shop items, you name it. It's all there. NT5TM.
Great. Thank you very much, Tony. Those are great announcements. All right, next up is Kelly, K5KTX. Good evening. What announcements do you have for us?
Thank you, Billy. This is K5KTX. Got a couple of events that I wanted to let you know about that are coming up. The first one is on Saturday, April the 6th. Saturday, April the 6th from 5:30 until 9:30 p.m. at the Mesquite ISD Planetarium. If you're familiar with Mesquite and you've driven on 635 and you see that gigantic radio tower, the planetarium sits right down at the bottom of that radio tower. But we're going to have a star party, weather permitting. But also there will be some dome shows, and they are going to show a new Apollo 11 or Apollo landings dome show. I'll be doing a presentation on the Mars Insight mission, and there will be some other presentations that are going on and a whole bunch more. I'll be there with my Lego Saturn V rocket for everybody to look at. And should be a lot of fun. So April the 6th from 5:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at the Mesquite Planetarium. The second item is just to let you know about the upcoming Texas Star Party. This is an annual event that is out near Fort Davis. The event this year is from April 28th until May the 5th. At the Prude Ranch in Fort Davis. And the deadline, if you want to attend this year, to get in under the regular rate, the deadline is coming up on April the 1st. You can still register after that, but it will cost almost twice as much after that. But it's a great year. I believe it's going to be my 13th TSP to go to. And we do have a lot of amateur radio activities that go on during the event. They have a ham radio shack that's open. They will be doing HF special event station, as well as they have a local Yaesu fusion repeater where we do some emergency communications during the week, practice drills and that type of thing. And, of course, it's some of the darkest skies in the United States, so it's a great place to go. TexasStarParty.org is the website. And, again, this year it's April 28th through May the 5th. And that's all I've got. This is K5KTX.
Great. Thank you very much, Kelly. Does anyone else have any general announcements? If so, please come now with your call sign.
Five Juliet Delta Whiskey.
K5JDW. John, good evening. What announcements do you have for us?
This is sort of sky related. I don't know if anybody knows on the ARRL side, I noticed there was a blurb about the HARP site up in Alaska, you know, the big antenna array that blasts a bunch of HF toward the atmosphere and messes with it and all that kind of stuff. At least that's what they officially told us. It's supposed to be on the air next week, I think Monday through Friday, probably from about 2 to 4 to 10 gig, or 10 megahertz, something like that. And I believe the time is like 5 to 10:30 and maybe midnight to 4 in the morning are their two major times. I think it's the University of Anchorage that actually officially owns it now. And if anybody wants to listen in on it, that's all I know. K5JW.
Great. Thank you very much, John. Does anyone else have any general announcements?
K5TM.
NT5TM, go ahead.
Thank you, Billy. John is really right about that. There's a news story up at arrl.org/news about that HARP activation next week. And I'm not kidding. They've even gone so far as to hire an artist to make image and voice transmissions of interest to people who listen for it. So find out more about it if you can and listen when you have free time. It might actually be pretty cool. NT5TM.
Awesome. Thanks for that additional info, Tony. Does anybody else have any general announcements for this evening's net? Not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements of my own. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and be registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com, and this net originates in Houston, Texas. The Dallas AMSAT net, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater on 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC has several nets on Mondays. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's net. If you'd like to share recipes or have a food question or anecdote or anything food-related, bring it to Ham Fixin's net. Second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communications. Third Monday of the month is the second helping of Ham Fixin's net. And fourth Monday is GeekNet. This net shares everything from news of the weird to brain teasers to all things geeky. If it's geeky, they'll share it. And if there's ever a fifth Monday of a month, that will be a surprise net. Done everything from lots of rounds of Jeopardy to Christmas Thunderdome, sharing best and worst Christmas presents, April Fool's, Truth or Lies. And I believe they did a Create Your Own Story night where they just went around to each radio station and just created stories. And so we have a lot of fun on that surprise net. The ARRL, on Saturdays, TechNet is from 7 to 8 p.m. And, of course, at 9 p.m. on the Night of Nets is Skynet. And the ARRL Net National Traffic System Training Net is every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And all are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And don't forget, as Tony mentioned, after this net at 10:30 will be the Afterglow Movie Net, where each week we pick a movie and watch it during the week and then discuss it on the net. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you will give tonight's Afterglow info.
I will be more than happy to. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it has come to the attention of this court that we've now had 2 time travel movies back to back. This is expressly prohibited by the 1949 Geneva Convention and on the top 5 high crimes list published by Amnesty International website. As such, I will not give a description of the required time travel paradox syndrome caused by such films. Suffice it to say, this film is loaded with them. There's dinosaurs, beautiful women, one named Vina, and a complete cadre of men in white lab coats playing top scientist chick magnets. What are those big pockets in those lab coats for? Never mind, you don't want to know. Join us for the next time-traveling, craptacular adventure, Journey to the Center of Time from 1967, tonight at 10:30 p.m. It's Dinosaurlicious. Back to net control. This is KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. And you can keep up with all DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website at w5fc.org. This is KF5PDS, Billy, for your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, at this time, we'll turn to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So if anyone is on net that would like to give information about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, please come now with your call.
KF5JHA.
KF5JHA, our resident professional astronomer. Chaz, good evening. What information do you have for us this evening about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas?
So I'm wondering what I'm a resident of. Oh, well, okay. The Texas Astronomical Society has monthly meetings at UT Dallas. That's on Campbell Road in the Science Learning Center. It's 7:30 in the evening on the 4th Friday of each month. Now, that's January through October. In November, it's actually the Friday before Thanksgiving. And December, there's usually another activity to the holidays, so there's no meeting at that point. Also, there are observing stations that are hosted by the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas that happen on different locations on different Saturdays. On the first Saturday of the month, Stargazer Star Party is hosted at Spring. On the second Saturday of each month, Frisco Starfest is held at the Frisco Commons Park. And on the third Saturday, Cedar Hill Starfold is at J.W. Williams Park in Cedar Hill. And on the fourth Saturday of each month, Stars on the Rock at the Shores Park in Rockwell. I don't think it happened tonight because of the clouds. We don't have anything on the fifth Saturday right now, but it looks like we might be having some in the near future. Does anybody need any bills? Or have any questions? You can get more information about the Texas Astronomical Society by going to their website, texasastro.org. Thank you, Billy. Back to Net Control.
Thank you very much, Chaz. Does anybody else have any information that they want to talk about with regard to Texas Astronomical Society, or have any other events with the society they want to talk about? If so, please come now with your call sign. Hearing none, we'll move on to the next part of our program, which is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll call on Bill, N5 Bravo Bravo, if you'll give us information about the National Space Society. Okay, not hearing Bill. I guess he didn't check in. I didn't recall hearing him on the net, so maybe if he comes in later and gives a late check-in, we can come back to his portion of the program later. So at this time, we'll move on to discussion topic of the evening, which I've been giving reports every month on my turn on Skynet about the NASA analog missions. And so this is kind of an ongoing multi-part program that I've just been bringing information to folks about these interesting and wonderful programs. So tonight, we'll just move on to the next one. So if you're just joining us and wonder what an analog mission is, an analog is a situation on Earth that provides effects on the body similar to those experienced in space, both physical and mental, emotional. And these studies help prepare us for long-duration missions. And NASA is associated with at least 15 analog missions throughout the world. So I'll be going to nasa.gov to relay this information. So if you'd like to know more, you can certainly go out to nasa.gov and search on these analog missions. And as I said, there's about 15 missions that NASA is associated with. So tonight we're going to be discussing the Human-Rated Altitude Chamber Complex, or the ACC. So mission overview, the location is at Johnson Space Center. The environment is a simulated microgravity. It tests for environmental hazards and isolation. And so a brief description, the ACC consists of 8 Experimental chambers designed to simulate characteristics of the space environment. The chambers have been used to simulate long-duration spaceflight, including a 56-day Skylab mission simulation and a 91-day Lunar Mars Life Support Test Project. During these simulations, investigators make every effort to limit supply replenishment and face-to-face contact with the crew, and the onboard team is responsible to attend to all interior upkeep and repairs. Although the chambers were initially designed to test life support systems and other gear, they are also used to simulate confinement and other unique challenges associated with long-duration spaceflight. Two of the chambers are used primarily for human testing and can be modified to simulate different atmospheric pressure, lighting, and other conditions. The ACC studies focus on life support systems, long-duration spaceflight, and the physiological and psychological impacts of confinement. So the services that the ACC provides, they have a 20-foot chamber. And this chamber is a vacuum chamber with 2 airlocks, rapid decompression chamber, and removable bulkhead on the outer lock compartment. The volume is divided into 3 levels by non-pressure bearing diaphragms, which provide atmospheric isolation. Chamber configurations can support both long-duration manned habitability and unmanned testing of life support equipment and systems. The 11-foot chamber is equipped with a dual airlock compartments of 9 feet and 10 feet, used for human testing in a vacuum environment and for spacesuit development. A third compartment, referred to as cabin, approximately 260 cubic feet in volume, is also available for reduced pressure, manned or unmanned testing. The chamber features a treadmill, crew weight relief, and the necessary support systems for reduced pressure crew operations. There's also an 8-foot chamber, which is primarily used with a canned man, in other words, a machine to simulate a human metabolism, to test portable life support systems. Canned man simulators are used primarily to provide controlled metabolic loading to life support systems under evaluation and for parametric testing. There's also a Space Station Airlock Test article. The Space Station Airlock Chamber was developed to support the International Space Station Program for Airlock Extravehicular Activity, or EVA, hardware testing, verification and certification, and flight crew training. The chamber is a human-rated, high-fidelity 1G airlock facility that provides flight-like simulation of airlock and EVA operations in pressures ranging from vacuum to 1 atmosphere. So just a little bit more information on the dimensions of each chamber. The 8-foot chamber has an 8 foot in diameter and 14 feet long, and it has 11-foot chamber is 11 feet in diameter and 19 feet long. The Space Station Airlock Test article has equipment lock of 1,100 cubic feet, crew lock is 310 cubic feet, and observer lock is 1,570 cubic feet. The 20-foot chamber is 20 feet in diameter and 27.5 feet high, and chamber 1, which is 18 inches in diameter and 29 inches long. So there's information about the altitude test facility specifications and the services that they provide. So again, these are vacuum test facilities, altitude chambers, which provide human-rated testing in a vacuum environment, spacesuit development testing, flight crew training, environmental control and life support system testing. They do metabolic loading to life support systems, parametric testing, emergency and mobility accommodations of suited crew members, and air revitalization system testing on carbon dioxide removal or reduction, oxygen generation, and trace contaminant control. which can test materials and hardware testing in a vacuum environment. And again, this is at Johnson Space Center. So there's some information about the Human Altitude Control Complex, or the ACC. So this is KF5's PDS, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And again, if you would like to look up that information or other information about analog missions that I've covered on past nets, you can go to nasa.gov/analogs, or just Google NASA analog missions and you'll find the information. All right, at this time, I'll turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll see if we have any additional check-ins. And then concluding that, if you will just turn the net directly over to Chaz, KF5JHA, for his Was Up segment. This is KF5PDS to KE5ICX.
Good. Thank you again, Ms. Billy. First, I'll acknowledge folks that have checked in during this segment. I've got K5JDW, who you picked up, John and Capel. K5KOB, Philip, over in Crandall. He's over on the Facebook page. I've got John Stewart. He is not a ham, but he knows about us, and he checks in, or at least listens in every week out of Austin. I got Clay, N50F in Mesquite, and I've got Andre, N5ABA, I believe over in Dallas. I've got him checked in. Do I have any additional check-ins? Please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
This is Bill in Irving. Kind of in and out tonight. This is Kilo Golf 5 Echo India Uniform. David in St. Paul, Texas. Is Whiskey Bravo number 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4 MFI Ted Dallas Low Power. Is KM5 Alpha Mike Heath, Texas.
Okie dokie, I may need a fill on a new call here, but I've got WB4MFI, Tad in Dallas, Low Power, N5BB, Bill in Irving. Okay, Bill, we'll come back to you in a minute, I guess. KG5EIU, David in St. Paul, good seeing you today. And then in East Texas, I've got Kilo Mike 5, Mike, I think. I didn't get your name. Did I get your call sign even remotely correct? And could I have your name?
It was close, but it's KM5AMM, and my name is Bill.
Ah, very good. I've got Kilo Mike 5, Alpha Mike, Bill in East Texas. I believe it's your first check-in here. Thank you for checking in. Any additional check-ins, please come now with your call sign.
Kilo Echo 0, Mexico, Foxtrot Delta. Matt in Davenport, Iowa.
Kilo Echo Zero. Mike Foxtrot Delta. Matt, somewhere in Idaho. Welcome, Matt. Glad to have you. I think you're the longest distance in country so far from this net. Hope you come and visit us every week. We do this net every week from 9 until 10:30 Central Time. So thank you very much for checking in. All right, it is time for our professional astronomer and amateur radio operator, Chaz. I don't know what it would mean if he got into radio astronomy, but that would be a confusing thing for him. KF5JHA, what do you have for What's Up? This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom, and thank you, Billy. And actually, I have constructed an antenna for astronomy purposes, but that's been a long time ago, even though I'm only 16. Yeah, this is KF5JHA, Chaz. My degree is in astrophysics. I work at Brookhaven Community College right here in the Dallas area. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Looking over the asteroids that are monitored with orbits close to the Earth, we did have on March the 22nd, asteroid 2019 EA2 get about 20% closer to us than our moon. It had a speed of 5.4 kilometers a second and the size of about 23 meters. We do not have any other close approach asteroids predicted over the next couple of weeks right now at this point. Now, last week I talked about a CME, a coronal mass ejection that happened on March the 12th. We had another one that occurred on the Sun on March the 20th. CMEs are energetic plasma that make up, they're made up of ionic particles, primarily the parts and pieces of either electrons or the nuclei of atoms, and they're released from the Sun. CMEs are usually the result of solar storms from the Sun and arrive to the Earth within 2 to 4 days. We actually had a sunspot that popped up over the last few days, and that resulted in our solar storm that we had and the CME that was released. This could result in auroras in the northern part of North America over the next couple of nights. I think Tony was talking about that, or I think it was Tony, on the 7 o'clock net, but the auroras are the result of those charged particles interacting from the Sun in the Earth's atmosphere, and they're guided by the Earth's magnetic field. This is the same process that goes on inside a fluorescent bulb. The main auroral color is often green due to the oxygen in the upper atmosphere. So this is a little bit late for St. Patrick's Day green aurora. Unfortunately, here in North Texas, aurora usually don't make it down this far south. But I've actually seen aurora a couple of times here in Texas since I arrived in 1992. But you have to get far away from the city lights in order to observe the aurora. Remember, the place that I get this information from is spaceweather.com. So you too can go get that information about asteroids and the solar activity. So on Thursday morning in the southeastern sky around 6:30 a.m., I saw a line of very interesting things. From left to right, I saw the planet Venus. Under normal conditions, Venus is the brightest thing other than the sun or the moon in the sky. To the upper right of Venus, I saw the much fainter planet Saturn. Then further to the upper right, I saw the planet Jupiter. And to the right of Jupiter, I saw the bright star Antares. Antares is the brightest star in the constellation of Scorpius, the Scorpions. And we've talked about Antares before, but Antares is one of the biggest stars you can see with your two eyes. Now, last week we talked about on Wednesday, March the 20th. I'm sorry, I wasn't here on Skynet, but I think Tom relayed this information for me, that on Wednesday, March the 20th at 4:58 p.m. Central Daylight Time, that was the moment of vernal equinox. And last week we did talk about the vernal equinox. So the vernal equinox the sun will rise directly east and set directly west. Now for us here in North Texas, for the morning sunrise on Wednesday, but the sky is cleared and we were able to see the sunrise. If you watched the sun, you've been able to see the sun rise directly in the east, and you watched the sunset, you could have seen it directly setting west on your horizon. So the moon is also full on March the 20th. Tonight, the moon is at a waning given phase. The moon is in conjunction with Jupiter on March the 26th. On March the 28th, the moon is in conjunction with Saturn. And on April the 2nd, the moon and Venus will be in conjunction together. On March the 31st, when the moon is at apogee, with a distance of 405,577 kilometers. Remember, apogee is the point in an object's orbit when it is closest to the Earth. In the 1700s, astronomers were interested in observing and discovering comets. And the one French astronomer, Charles Messier, was one of those comet hunters. But he had a problem. He kept mistaking fuzzy things that were scattered throughout the sky for comets. Funny, fuzzy things did not move compared to the stars. No one really knew what they were, so they were mostly ignored. But for Charles Messier, these fuzzy things were bothering him. So Charles Messier decided to write down the location in the sky of these permanent fuzzy things, so that he would not mistake them for a comet. He first started with a few on the list, and then more were added, and his friend and assistant, Pierre Bouchard, sure I'm messing up that next name, I'm sorry, helped Messier compile a list of these objects. The first list of 45 of these objects was published in the French Academy of Science in Paris in 1774. Only 17 of these first 45 were credited to Messier, with the others having been observed by other astronomers previous to him. By 1780, the list of 80 objects, and in 1784, the addition of, it's the yearly publication of the Astronomical Ephemeris in France, Connaissance the Epoch. I'm sure I've messed that one up. The list published in that publication, that annual publication, was a total of 103 objects. But through historical research, 7 more objects have been added to this list. So now we recognize a list of 110 Messier objects in the sky. In the 1700s, it was less of things not to look at if they were not comets, and astronomers back then didn't understand them. But now, the list is the most, well, observed by the amateur astronomers, and they also use them nightly. This list contains open star clusters, globular star clusters, many different types of galaxies, collection nebulae, division nebulae, planetary nebulae, a supernova remnant, and much more. This list of 110 Messier objects are not scattered evenly through the sky. In fact, there's a time of year when you are in the right location on the Earth, and the moon is around the same noon, then you can observe all 110 objects in just a single night. So between sunrise and sunset, you see all 110 objects. That time of the year is around the vernal equinox, right around now. The location on the Earth that works best is the southern part of the northern hemisphere. Trying to observe as many of the objects in one night is called a Messier marathon. Back in the late 1970s and early 1980s, I participated in several Messier marathons. One such Messier marathon, we used the 32-inch telescope at Perkins Observatory in Powell, Ohio. A few more than a dozen of us got together to observe, and we saw 108 of 110 objects that for this year, the full moon fell exactly on the same day as equinox, so this year's sun and I flew here to get all 110 M objects in one night. The Texas Astronomy Society in Dallas tried to hold a Messier marathon at their observing location the night of March 2nd and 3rd, but the weather did not cooperate. So they tried it again the next weekend on March 9th and 10th. Once again, clouds won, blue skies, and we had. So the third time this year, Pat, Texas Astronomy Society, will try a Messier marathon party and contest on the night of March the 30th and 31st, which is a week from now. If it is clear, I may not be on Skynet next week, but rather participating in a Messier marathon. If it is clear, I'm going to end up at the Tax Garden Observing Site. I might try being on Skynet for next week. Now, going back to the sky, in the evening sky, you will find the planet Mars about halfway up in the western sky. Just after it gets started, you'll see the pale orange object. Orion can be found by looking high in the south. Three stars in a straight line. That makes up the belt. The right stars above the belt represent the shoulders. Helios on the left, belt sections on the right. Two stars below the belt stars represent the lead, the one on the left is Science, and the one on the right is right. Tell me if Star Trek is the same versus right and forward. Don't forget that I was going to mention this, but I will anyway. So look underneath Orion, really low in the south, you'll find the second brightest star to know with. Now, since I wasn't on Skynet last week, I didn't get to tell you any jokes last week, so let me see if I can get anybody to respond to this. What's the difference between a cat and a frog?
NT5TM here. Chaz, your audio is really, really low. Your battery might be dying.
Well, then I will lift that to net control. Thank you very much, everyone. Hope you have a great week. See you at the nighttime sky. KFI, stay safe. Back to net control. Thank you, Billy.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. This is KFI PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. One moment. Just stand. Just want to check and see, Bill, N5BB, are you still on frequency? If so, do you have any news for us from the National Space Society?
This is N5BB. Thanks for asking. I have been kind of in and out. Let me see. Do I have any National Space Society news? Well, not anything within the last week or even 2 weeks. There's nothing really new. There's a lot of activity with SpaceX and Virgin Galactica, and there's a successful test of capturing space junk by a British team. And of course, the Mars rovers are kind of coming to an end, the old ones, and they're preparing some new ones. And at the last National Space Society meeting, Dr. Kat Berger of TCU talked about the Magellanic Cloud galaxies and other galaxies near our Milky Way. But I think I said that last week, so I really don't have any new things, I guess, in 5BB.
Thank you very much, Bill, and no problem. Just wanted to check and see if there was anything new to report. But if not, sounds like the world of space and SpaceX and everything has been very interesting. I've enjoyed watching launches and tests and everything on NASA TV, so definitely something to keep up with. They're doing lots of cool things, so thank you for that report. All right, next up, we don't have a featured constellation tonight, so we'll move on to recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I'll turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours.
Thanks, Billy. This is WB5OZL. The first article is entitled Water-Bearing Minerals on Asteroid Bennu. The Southwest Research Institute-led team discovered evidence of abundant water-bearing minerals on the surface of the near-Earth asteroid 101955 Bennu. Using early spectral data from NASA's OSIRIS-REx spacecraft orbiting the asteroid, the team identified infrared properties similar to those in a type of meteorite called carbonaceous chondrites. Scientists are interested in the composition of Bennu because similar objects may have seeded the Earth with water and organic materials, said SWRI's Dr. Victoria Hamilton, a mission co-investigator and lead author of a paper outlining the discovery published March 19th in Nature Astronomy. OSIRIS-REx data confirm previous ground-based observations pointing to aqueously altered, hydrated minerals on the surface of the asteroid. Typical planetary models show that around 4.6 billion years ago, the solar system formed from the gravitational collapse of a giant nebular cloud. The sun, planets, and other objects such as asteroids and comets formed as materials within the collapsing cloud, clumped together in a process known as accretion. Carbonaceous chondrites, which come from asteroids, show evidence for post-accretion interactions with water and/or ice that lead to chemical reactions that produce hydrated minerals. Because these meteorites and their apparent bodies formed close to the beginning of the solar system, they may provide clues to the distribution, abundance, and movements of water in the solar system at these times. During planetary formation, scientists believe that water was one of many chemical components that accreted to form Earth. However, most scientists think additional water was delivered in part by comets and pieces of asteroids, including water-bearing carbonaceous meteorites, Hamilton said. Many of these meteorites also contain prebiotic organic chemicals and amino acids, which are precursors to the origin of life. The details of water delivery to Earth, as well as the larger issue of the different inventories of water ice in the early solar system, affect how we view solar system formation. Two types of carbonaceous
Chondrites, called Ci and Cm chondrites, contain several percent by weight of organic compounds, and some also contain water in abundances of 10 to 15% and as much as 20% in rare cases. The presence of volatile organic chemicals in water indicates that they have not undergone substantial heating. Because asteroids with hydrated minerals are found throughout the main asteroid belt, significant ice must have been present in the disks during and shortly after the time of carbonaceous asteroid accretion, Hamilton said. In the summer of 2020, OSIRIS-REx will touch Bennu's surface to collect a sample of surface regolith for return to Earth. The spectral measurements used in this study will be confirmed by lab experiments when a sample of Bennu's surface materials arrives back at Earth in 2023. The geological characteristics of Bennu's surface indicate that it is an old rubble pile of gravitationally bound, unconsolidated fragments left over from an ancient collision in the asteroid belt. These and future higher resolution spectral observations from OSIRIS-REx will provide vital context for analyzing the returned sample to evaluate the aqueous alteration experienced by Bennu's parent body based on details of mineral distribution, abundance, and composition. The OSIRIS-REx mission is led by the University of Arizona. NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center provides overall mission management, and Lockheed Martin Space Systems built the spacecraft and executes flight operations. OSIRIS-REx is a New Frontiers program mission administered by the Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama, for NASA's Space Mission Directorate. Okay, next article. Giant X-ray chimneys, and then that's in quotes, are exhaust vents for vast energies produced at Milky Way's center. This is a close look at what might be happening in other, more energetic galaxies. The center of our galaxy is a frenzy of activity, a behemoth black hole, 4 million times as massive as the Sun, blasts out energy as it chows down on interstellar detritus while neighboring stars burst to life and subsequently explode. Now, an international team of astronomers has discovered 2 exhaust channels, dubbed galactic center chimneys, that appear to funnel matter and energy away from the cosmic fireworks in the Milky Way center, about 28,000 light years from Earth. Mark Morris, a UCLA professor of astronomy and astrophysics, contributed to the research which will be published March 21st in the journal Nature. We hypothesize that these chimneys are exhaust vents for all the energy released at the center of the galaxy, Morris said. All galaxies are giant star-forming factories, but their productivity can vary widely from one galaxy to the next and even over the course of each galaxy's lifetime. One mechanism for throttling the rate of star production is the fountain of matter and energy whipped up by the heavyweight black hole that lurks at a galaxy's center. Star formation determines the character of a galaxy, Morris said, and that's something we care about because stars produce the heavy elements out of which planets and life are made. To better understand what becomes of that outflow of energy, Morris and his colleagues pointed the European Space Agency's XMM Newton satellite, which detects cosmic X-rays, toward the center of the Milky Way, because X-rays are emitted by extremely hot gas that are especially useful for mapping energetic environments in space. In images they collected from 2016 to 2018 and in 2012, the researchers found 2 plumes of X-rays, the galactic center chimneys, stretching in opposite directions from the central hub of the galaxy. Each plume originates within about 160 light years of the supermassive black hole and spans over 500 light years. The chimneys hook up to two gargantuan structures known as the Fermi bubbles, cavities carved out of the gas that envelops the galaxy. The bubbles, which are filled with high-speed particles, straddle the center of the galaxy and stretch for 25,000 light years in either direction. Some astronomers suspect that the Fermi bubbles are relics of massive eruptions from the supermassive black hole, while others think the bubbles are blown out by hordes of newly born stars. Either way, the chimneys could be conduits through which high-speed particles get there. Understanding how energy makes its way from a galaxy's center to its outer limits could provide insights into why some galaxies are bursting with star formation, whereas others are dormant. In extreme cases, that fountain of energy could either trigger or shut off star formation of the galaxy, Morris said. Our galaxy isn't quite that extreme. Other galaxies have fountains powered by central black holes, weighing 1,000 times more than ours. But the Milky Way center provides an up-close look at what might be happening in galaxies that are more energetic. We know that outflows and winds of material and energy emanating from a galaxy are crucial in sculpting and altering that galaxy's shape over time. They're key players in how galaxies and other structures form and evolve throughout the cosmos, said lead author Gabriele Ponti of the Max Planck Institute for Extraterrestrial Physics in Garching, Germany. Luckily, our galaxy gives us a nearby laboratory to explore this in detail and probe how material flows out into space around us. Morris said that the centers of the nearest galaxies are hundreds of to thousands of times farther away than our own. The amount of energy coming out of the center of our galaxy is limited, but it's a really good example of a galactic center that we can observe and try to understand, he said. 9 authors from 5 countries contributed to the study. Research was funded by NASA, the French National Center for Space Studies, the French National Agency for Research, the German Federal Ministry of Economics and Technology, and the German Aerospace Center and the Max Planck Society. Okay, these are both from ScienceDaily.com. That is all. Back to net. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Those are very interesting articles. This is KF5 PDS. Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I will turn the net over to NT5TM Tony. The net is yours.
And I'd like to mention that although she did sound a little staticky, I could clearly hear Brenda on Simplex. So if you'd like to participate in lighting up the night on 2 meters tomorrow, 146-520 from 6 to 8 p.m. would be a fun place to hang out. In space exploration news, all is not quiet on the Bennu front. Brenda touched on this too. We've got 2 really exciting missions going on, Hayabusa 2 and OSIRIS-REx, and they are both visiting exciting asteroids, and both of them have turned out to be more complicated than expected. A 500-meter wide space rock, Bennu, has, it turns out, not been as quiet as expected. Scientists carefully analyzing the images from OSIRIS-REx have seen that Bennu has been ejecting particles of dust and gravel into space several times over the past few months. Bennu is one of just a dozen or so active asteroid, and it's the only active asteroid ever observed up close. The discovery of these active particles is probably the biggest surprise of the early stages of the OSIRIS-REx mission, and I would say one of the biggest surprises of my scientific career, said the PI for OSIRIS-REx, Dante Loretta of the University of Arizona during a news conference on March 19th. military astronomy, the rules are simple. Comets are exciting. They puff out clouds of gas and dust. They make tails. Asteroids are boring. They sit there. They're piles of rock. Bennu has been a bit more active, and that's pretty exciting. From recent news, we have to report that the self-hammering nail is, well, stuck. Not on an asteroid, but on the planet Mars. This is the heat and physical properties package of the Mars InSight lander. It has been trying to pound itself into the Martian subsurface, and it's not doing very well. Last round of hammering on the self-hammering nail was on March 2nd, and it didn't get anywhere. There are many ideas circulating for freeing up the mole, or self-hammering nail, and all of them require at least several weeks of careful analysis. There is very little clarity at this point as to whether the mole, the nickname for the self-hammering spike that is part of the heat and physical properties package, is being blocked by a single large rock or a dense layer of gravel. No one knows yet. There is also the possibility that the probe or its cable might be stuck on something that's part of the probe's housing. We don't know yet. It's hard. You're millions of miles away, so am I, and can't quite tell what's going wrong, but something is going wrong. Now, the first part of my space history presentation is always space-related birthdays, and we have just one of them this week. On March 23rd, 1912, a man was born whose allegiance is ruled by expedience. That's Wernher von Braun. Harvard math professor and comedian Tom Lehrer pointed this out back in the 60s. What is it that put America at the forefront of the nuclear nations, and what is it that will make it possible to spend billions of dollars of your money to put someone on the moon? Well, it's good old American know-how brought to you by a good old American like Dr. Wernher von Braun. He was born on March 23rd, 1912, when he was a German-American aerospace engineer and space architect. He really was pretty much focused on rocketry. He would serve anyone who served that goal, and he was a leading figure in the development of rocket technology in Germany and the United States. And designed the V-2 rocket at Peenemünde during World War II, and he was moved to the United States as part of the secret Operation Paperclip. He designed the really extremely important early missiles like the Juno and the Redstone, and he was an instrumental figure in the launch of our first satellite, Explorer 1. His group was assimilated into NASA, where he served as the director of the newly formed Marshall Space Flight Center and the chief architect of the Saturn V Super Heavy Lift launch vehicle. It propelled the Apollo spacecraft to the moon, and he received the National Medal of Science. He was also a strong advocate of a human mission to Mars. He was a very interesting character, very controversial, and he was very, very good at what he did. Of Dr. von Braun, on March 17th, 1958, Vanguard 1 was launched. Vanguard 1 was the American satellite that was the first of our civilian space program. It was technically the fourth artificial satellite after Sputnik 1, Sputnik 2, and Explorer 1, but it was the very first satellite that ever used solar panels. Although communication with the satellite was lost back in 1964, it still is in orbit. It is still trackable. It remains the oldest human-made object still in orbit, along with the upper stage of its launch vehicle. It was designed to test the launch capabilities of a three-stage launch vehicle and the effects of the space environment on a satellite. How much drag was there? We don't know. Well, let's launch a satellite and find out. Khrushchev here. Cruise ship made fun of this as the grapefruit satellite. He said it would take very many satellites the size of a grapefruit to equal the mass of Sputnik 2. But the thing was, these satellites the size of grapefruit did more science than either Sputnik 1 or Sputnik 2. On March 18th, 1965, Voskhod 2 was launched. This was a two-person satellite crewed by Pavel Belayev and Alexei Leonov. During the second orbit of the satellite, Leonov stepped out of his vehicle and performed humanity's first walk in space. After 10 minutes of incredibly stressful extravehicular activity, he returned safely to the spacecraft through an inflatable airlock. This was an amazing piece of textile craftsmanship. It was originally named Vicod, exit. It almost ended in disaster because Leonov had a terribly difficult time trying to re-enter the spacecraft because his pressure suit, not really a spacesuit, was extremely stiff. He had to bleed air from the suit in order to get back into the airlock. After Leonov finally managed to get back into the cabin, the primary hatch would not seal completely. The environmental control system compensated by flooding the cabin with pure oxygen, which created a serious fire hazard because the spacecraft had only previously been tested at sea level pressure with nitrogen and oxygen, not pure oxygen. This was the era of Apollo 1. A Soviet cosmonaut, Bondarenko, had burned to death in a hyperbaric oxygen fire, as did all the three crew members of Apollo 1. Leonov, also had a great deal of stress during his EVA. He described it after he landed as being up to his knees in sweat. It was exhausting. Spacecraft require a lot of handholds and footholds because when you have to keep your whole balance by your own muscle power, it's pretty tough. In his 10 minutes outside the airlock, his core body temperature went up by 2 degrees Celsius, that is 4.9 degrees Fahrenheit. That was a great foreshadowing of all the difficulties the U.S. had in the Gemini program learning how to conduct practical EVAs in zero gravity. Then, after he almost had a heat stroke on this EVA, things got worse. They crashed into the Siberian forest, and they spent the night there. And at dawn, a helicopter crew did manage to bring them on March 20th some long underwear, but they couldn't do much more. The astronauts themselves had to get axes out of their survival kit and chop down trees to make a helicopter landing zone, and also build a big bonfire to make themselves easier to find. But don't worry, it only took till March 21st after a landing before dawn on March 20th before they were finally recovered. Russian paratroopers had to bring them skis, and Leonov and Belayev had to ski out from their landing site on their own. On March 21st, 1965, we had a big crash, but it was on purpose. Ranger 9 hit the moon. It was the very last of the Ranger probes. It returned almost 6,000 images before it impacted the moon. Its target was Alphonsus, a large crater about 12 degrees south of the lunar equator. The probe was, well, destined to hit the moon. It had batteries and solar panels and not much else, although its hexagonal bust did prove the basis for both Pioneer and Voyager. One had been to the moon, and pretty much the only way to gain close-up images in the mid-60s was to ram it at high speed. Ranger 7, Ranger 8, and Ranger 9 were the culmination of the Ranger program. They worked, they returned great pictures, and they made the world safer for Apollo astronauts. Now, these images were being shown live at a press conference in Von Karman Auditorium at JPL, and Wally Schirra had been invited. He was a famous astronaut from Mercury. He had fun. He jumped up and yelled, Bail out, you fool, just before the probe hit the moon. Speaking of Mercury astronauts, on March 23rd, 1965, the unsinkable Molly Brown was launched into orbit. This was Gus Grissom's capsule. Well, Gus and John Young, both of them were NASA legends, both extraordinarily competent astronaut engineers. They did a great job. It was the 9th crewed U.S. space flight, including 2 X-15 flights, and the 17th space flight in human history. It was also the final crewed flight controlled completely from Cape Kennedy in Florida before the new Mission Control Center in Houston had opened. Of course, later it was Cape Canaveral, but in '65, I've checked this, it was still Cape Kennedy. The mission's main goal was just to test the new maneuverable Gemini spacecraft. The crew fired thrusters to change the shape of their orbit, shift their plane slightly, inclination is hard to change, and also raise and lower their apogee. Other firsts were achieved on Gemini 3. 2 people flew for the first time in an American spacecraft, and it was the first crewed reentry where the spacecraft was able to produce lift and change its landing point, not just a ballistic reentry, but a controlled trajectory. Gemini 3 was a great proving of a new spacecraft, but it did have one incident, and I'm hungry, so it was a good incident. John Young, NASA legend, hero of many space programs, had smuggled a corned beef sandwich on board the spacecraft. He took a bite. He offered a bite to Grissom. It was amusing. It was tasty, but both of them got worried after they took a bite or two because crumbs began floating around their tiny spacecraft. They put the corned beef sandwich back in a plastic bag. It must have been better than food from a tube of toothpaste, but it was pretty scary as they saw crumbs float behind their instrument panel. Gemini 3 proved the vehicle would work, and it proved it could tolerate some non-specific rations. Man, I don't want to eat food from a tube of toothpaste. I would prefer a sandwich. This is NT5TM. Back to net. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you very much, Tony. Those are all great. And, yeah, I love hearing the story about the corned beef sandwich. That's so funny. And thank you for the Tom Lehrer reference. That's one of my favorite songs, and I have the album That Was the Year That Was on vinyl. So I absolutely love Tom Lehrer's songs. They're so witty. All right, this is KF5PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up, let's see, we seem to have a little bit of time left. So, Tom, why don't you, KE5ICX, if you would give us maybe one satellite passage, and then see if we have any additional final check-ins, and then give me a count for this evening's net. I would appreciate it. This is KF5PDS to KE5ICX.
Very good. This is KE5ICX. I'll do exactly that. We do have one pass there's a number of passes. There's a billion passes on March 24th. If you go to heavens-above.com, that's heavens with a hyphen in between above.com, you'll find all of these. Plug in your longitude and latitude, and that information will be customized for your particular location. So I'll give you kind of one of the more interesting ones. Well, they're all interesting, but one of the lesser-known ones is Tiangong 2, the second Chinese space station in orbit. March 24th does have a pass of 0.9 magnitude at 1908. Local Dallas time reaches its highest point at 87 degrees, almost directly overhead at 1911, and then falls at 1912. At 39 degrees out of the northeast. So I think that goes into shadow just a little bit. Yes, it does. It drops into shadow over Leo Minor. So that's an interesting pass. Let's see, maybe another one here. North Korean satellite. That one is also unusual. That one has a March 24th pass as well. That one is 55 degrees. It's a 7.5 magnitude. I'm not quite sure we could see it. I guess we could. 5:36 a.m. in the morning out of the north-northeast. It reaches highest point at 5:39 at 55 degrees, then falls to the due south at 55 degrees at 10 degrees at 5:43. Yeah, to the south. Let me take a look. That one is a full pass. Yep, out of the due north to just about due south. That one could be very interesting. So I'll leave it there. I have to tell you, if you're interested in something, tomorrow, the 24th, maybe the vernal equinox has something to do with this. There are a whole bunch of satellite passes. If you want to try your best in Dallas glare, this may be a good opportunity to see how well satellite passes actually look. Evisat has one, Hubble, let's see, North Korean Evisat, and those are the ones, and Tiangong 2, of course. Those three. I think there's another, Hubble Space Telescope, that's the fourth one. So 4 satellite passes for tomorrow night. KE5ICX. Oh, wait. I got to get additional check-ins. I forgot. Take additional check-ins. This is KE5ICX. If you'd like to join us this evening and have not done so already, now is the time. Please come with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Final call.
Hello, Foxtrot 5, Tango 0 Kilo, Burl, mobile.
This is November 5, Yankee Echo Oscar Stephen, normally in San Antonio, but tonight in the Frisco, Plano area, Dallas.
All right. Hey, it's good to hear from you, Stephen. You're local. N5YEO, I've got you checked in. I've got Burl, K5TSK, he's mobile. And JJ, I did not forget about you. I've got N5IMS. Any final check-ins, please come now. We'll stay. I have 30 check-ins, including net control and alternate net control. Back to net. This is KE5ICX.
All right, thank you very much, and welcome to those that came in during that final check-in round. So I copy that tonight we had 30 hams participating on the air tonight. So thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We are always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5PDS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:28 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. So 7-3 everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And don't forget, coming up next is the Afterglow Movie Net. 7-3 everybody.
we'll be back for Journey to the Center of Time in 5 minutes. 5 minutes until the Death Star clears the moon. E5ICX.
KF5, JHA, I hope you can hear me better now. For some reason my radio switched to low power earlier.
Chaz, you sound a lot better. Your static cling is gone.
As I said on Echo Link in the chat thing, I'm glad it wasn't Klingon.
Too soon. You're not holding the repeater now. Can you stand on a chair and hold the handy-talkie higher in the air?
I'm a little bit short.
Well, you should consider 440. The wavelengths are a little shorter. You sound better now. anybody need to use the repeater before we begin the Afterglow movie net? I'll take that as a no. This is Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray. Yeah, the same guy. And it is time for the Afterglow Movie Net. What do we talk about? We talk about a wonderful motion picture that we were all assigned last week on Sunday morning, in fact, to watch. And I don't know who the guy is that decides on these movies, but whoever he is, he needs to be shot. This movie, this week, is called Journey to the Center of Time. It's a 1967 U.S. science fiction film directed by David L. Hewitt, starring the famous Scott Brady and Anthony Isley. Yes, that guy, Anthony Isley. It is a remake of The Time Travelers from 1964. I didn't know that. I wondered why it looks so much like The Time Travelers from 1964, because it is The Time Travelers from 1964, also known as Time Warp. Yay. Now let me give you the plot, and then I'll tell you the rules of this thing, and then I'll take check-ins. Here's the plot. Stanton, played by Scott Brady, has taken charge of a research company following the death of his father. His employees are scientists Mark Manning, Doc Gordon, Karen White, that's all you need to know. Unless they prove that their time travel experiments can produce some results, their funding will be cut off. What a surprise. Despite their push for operating equipment past the level of safety and travel 5,000 years into the future, there they encounter aliens led by Vina, played by Pupe Gaman, who are looking for a planet to colonize. The aliens find no welcome on Earth, which is in the midst of a global war that threatens the human race. She urges them to go back and warn humanity about the danger, and then dies in a human attack. The time travelers retreat to their chamber and head back. On the way, they detect another time machine on a collision course. The Manning, tries to communicate with them. When that fails, they fire at it, but their weapon is too weak. Worthless and weak, Stanton takes charge, or it could be Static takes charge. No, anyway, boosts the power and destroys the other vessel! Exclamation point. However, they overshoot the present and end up in the distant past. But what is the present, really, when you think about it? Anyway, distant past dinosaurs. Their giant ruby, a key component of the machine, is destroyed, leaving them stranded. When they explore a nearby cave, they find it studded with all sorts of jewels, including rubies. How convenient. Overcome by greed, Stanton grabs handfuls of the precious gems and returns to the time machine. Replaces the ruby and takes off without scientists. Does this thing have to be like, cut a certain way? Apparently not. However, on his return trip, he encounters another time-traveling machine on a collision course. As he hears a radio broadcast from Manning, Stanton realizes with horror that he is racing towards an earlier version of the time machine, and then he is destroyed by a blast initiated by his earlier self. Time travel paradoxes, I warned you. Meanwhile, as the scientists leave the cave, Gordon stumbles and falls to his death in molten lava. Yawn. Mark and Karen find the time machine gone, and then it mysteriously reappears. No! They board it and return to the past, but arrive the day before their initial departure. As a result, they find themselves in a parallel dimension, witnessing their past selves living at a much slower time rate, just like this movie. Knowing that the simultaneous presence of their past and current the same timeline could fatally disrupt the space-time continuum, creating a space-time discontinuum, Mark and Karen hasten back to the time machine to rectify the problem, diodes in hand. ending up hopelessly lost in time and space. In the final scene, the machine with 2 scientists on board is shown drifting among the stars towards an unknown fate. The end. American International Film. Well, if that storyline doesn't depress you enough, now's your opportunity to talk about it. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to take check-ins. Everybody think during the check-ins what you want to say about the plot. Remember, I'll ask you if you saw the movie or not. Even if you don't, you're still encouraged to check in. It is time travel. Everybody knows all the paradoxes and all the things that go along with it. So if you got something to say about that, by all means, we'll take your check-in and you can make comments. If you did see the movie, my apologies. So we'll now take check-ins. I will begin with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you saw the movie. The most important part is your name and call sign and whether you saw the movie. So let's do it. Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from, and did you see this fine film, which is called, what is it? Journey to the Center of Time. Please come now.
This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. I kind of jumped through this. After watching the first few minutes, I was so bored I didn't think I could stay awake, through the whole thing. So I just kind of jumped around. So I'm going to probably just be listening. It's IBB.
Golf 5, Papa. Mike and Richardson. Yeah, I saw the movie. I tend to agree with Bill, but I can make some comments. KG5P.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo. Pearl, I did see the movie. Really lost in space rather than time. K5P, escape back to net.
This is Whiskey, Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Name is Brenda Mendocino. Yes, I was forced to watch this movie under duress, and I am scarred, and I want my hour and a half back.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jane Air Winford, I really could not make it through the film. I watched about half of it, and I was like, I just kind of hated it. KG5BGW.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Fort Worth. I did not see the movie, and I'll just be listening. KG5PMN, back to the net.
For the radio, N5BB Bill in Irving, he is saying he did see the movie, but he doesn't want to talk about it. Therapy in the future. KG5P, Mike and Richardson, yes, he saw it, sort of. KF5TSK, Burl in Dallas, a trooper, he saw it, he has comments. WP5OZL, we think. Miss Brenda DeSoto, she saw it. It's not so sure about its relative worth to society. KG5BZ, BZWJ in Weatherford, he got halfway through it and then destroyed his computer. Additional check-ins who have seen Journey to the Center of Time from 1967. It has Lyle Wagner in it, and he's not even credited. Lyle Wagner. Okay, additional check-ins, come now.
is Kilo Golf 5, Papa Mike, November, James, Fort Worth. I did not see the movie, and I'll just be listening. KG 5 p.m. in, back to the net.
Okay, I've got KFI PMM, Papa Mike, November, James over in Fort Worth. He's going to listen in only. Okay, I'll take Echolink. I will do definitely Echolink now. If you would like to join us over on Echolink, I'll give you extra time. Call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Did you see this fine film? All right, I've got JJ N5IMS. He's listening only. My goodness, we picked a real winner today. Usual suspects aren't coming in, but I may have doubled with someone, so I'll go ahead and give a final chance over there, or Echolink. Please come down with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from. Did you see this fine film, Journey to the Center of Time?
Inside BB earlier, Tom, somebody in Fort Worth doubled with you. Inside BB.
I think that's James. Anyone else wants to check in? Come now. All right, well, we've got our suspects. There are 7, but only, how many? 2 men enter, 1 man leaves, or something like that. So we're down to listen only, so 5. And myself, that's 6. So let's start at the top. Bill, N5BB, you saw the movie. Oh, you said you were listening only, so let me cross you off, but you can pop in anytime you want and pop off about this fine film. KG5P, Mike over in Richardson, you saw the film. Your enthusiastic response suggests that you have many comments about the plot. Go ahead, Mike.
All right. Good evening, Tom, KG5P. Well, I really appreciated the synopsis because I couldn't figure this movie out. But here's the deal. You know what a positive feedback loop is, I presume. Well, this movie I was kind of in the positive feedback loop mode because the more I got bored with it, the less I pay attention, and the less I knew what was going on, and then the more bored I would get. And finally, I resorted to solving some partial differential equations because it was more exciting than the movie. I was glad you kind of put it together. I didn't quite get what was going on. I got the rich guy, the CEO or whatever he was, and he was going to cut funding. You know, we've been working on this project for years, and we haven't had any progress. So you better come up with something in 24 hours. I mean, why bother? Just shut it down. I mean, what are they going to do in 24 hours? But they haven't done it in 2 years. It's kind of like going to summer school. If you haven't learned it in 9 months of the year, how's 6 weeks of going to summer school going to teach it to you? But I digress. I don't know, it was sort of silly. I guess we'll talk about acting later in the characters, but I never did understand why they left their nice, comfy time traveling box. You explained it, but they all of a sudden they went out and they started exploring volcanoes, active volcanoes, and walking along cliffs and stuff, and I never could quite figure out what that was about. And well, I'll say some more about the characters later, but yeah, the whole thing didn't make much sense until your explanation. So that's about all I have for now. Back to Net KG5P.
All right, thanks, Mike, and this is quite unusual for you. You're almost speechless, trying to edify something that's unedible. How do you like that for a term? KF5TSK, Burl, your comments on the plot. This is KE5I6.
This is KF5TSK. Well, plot. Where was it? It's missing. It got lost in time. It was just so many things that were, we're going in the past, we're going back to the future, we passed the future, we're past where we started, and they kept doing that back and forth, and at the end, and it was like, who got into the time capsule, and where did it go when the time capsule was controlling, or the company was controlling? And the set itself was so ridiculous that all those big meters and switches on the wall. And yet Stanton was going to walk in and punch a button and go home when he didn't know where he was or what he was doing. Like I said, not much real plot. KF5TSK, back to that.
Well, that was one of your shortest synopses ever. Well, we'll see how it all goes. Frantically write notes because we're going to talk about characters after this. WB5, I think it's WB5OZL and DeSoto, or W DeSoto 50ZL. Brenda, your comments on plot.
This is WB5OZL. Now, see, this is what happens when you watch time travel movies. Your own life starts getting rearranged. And now your call sign is not your call sign anymore. And because you've been disordered and reordered, and they didn't put all the pieces back together because they didn't know what a human looked like. Oh, man, this movie is just laughable. It's like, why did the first guy want to go back alone? What advantage was there to that? Wouldn't you think he'd date those other people? He had all these jewels. He's going to be rich, even richer. That just made no sense. So many things made no sense at all. So, let's see. Yeah, the plot was really pretty simple. Actually, it was simple-minded. There's just no excuse for this. I just wanted them all to die. WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. You violated the rule, time travel and everything. That was characters all to die characterization, and plot should be just simplistically dumb. Got it. Okay, next up, KG5BZWJ over in Weatherford. You're near Weatherford, not in Weatherford, but near Weatherford. What did you think of the plot, especially the space-time continuum? Go ahead. This is KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, well, yeah, that was... Okay. First thing about time travel movies, they're kind of a little bit magical, and they just seem to... I mean, by magic, I mean, you know, you're just supposed to be a little bit of mystery to let everything unexplained. Keep things unexplained so you can kind of, you know, make maybe a few logical nonsense with, you know, things that don't make sense, but it just doesn't really have to explain it. It's like, yeah, sure, it doesn't make sense, but it's still, you know, you can still make a story out of it, that kind of thing. And first of all, there's just so much tedious thought about this time machine, just focusing on switching elements and just, like, why do I want to do that? I don't understand why the film, those filming thought that would be interesting enough. And, oh, goodness. And then, of course, you know, I was like Mike. I kept on getting more and more bored with the film. Let me reset. Okay. If things go bored, I normally try several options, which is speed the film up. You can do that on off. You can't do that on in all devices, but you can do it on your phone or your PC. YouTube, you can use that's the nice thing about YouTube. You get the speed up option. You got, you know, distract yourself while you're watching. Neither of these options were really working. And then I just kind of gave up right when all of a sudden there's this fight in the middle of everything that just it didn't make sense. Oh goodness, I have to think about this a little bit. One more reset. Yeah, I there's just so much about this film as I just started to actively hate, and I really just couldn't get through of it. And now that I know that the plot points of it, I'm glad I didn't finish it, because it just like you know, I don't know, you know, I don't particularly want to see a movie about somebody getting executed slowly, which it just kind of seems like that's what a lot of the characters had happened to them. So that just the whole motivation behind the movie, I do not understand. Yeah, I wanted to say one thing. Well, why were they going outside? Well, I know for at least the first time they left their time capsule, they were coerced out. The aliens brought them out. So, for some reason, that was even totally. It's like they wrote the next scene, hoping you'd forget the past several scenes. In fact, I kind of think this is supposed to be one of those shows that you're supposed to bring a date to the movie and just make out for the rest of the film for some reason. Maybe I don't know. Goodness gracious, this film. I hate it. KG5BZW.
Jay. I guess I understand how you feel about this film. Okay, let's see. Let me go ahead and ask if there are additional check-ins before we go on, and then I'll give my comments. Anyone else listening in and would like to talk about Journey to the Center of Time, a fine film from 1967 about time travel? Please come now.
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha, checking in, but immediately checking out.
Okay, Ron, I heard you. Probably had one of those midnight things over at the Perot Museum, so I got you in and out. You got to see this film. It's really something. I don't know what that something might be, but it's really something. All right, my comments on this film. The Time Travelers was the film from 1964. I didn't realize that, but that was what I referenced last night while I was going through my psychedelic withdrawal from this film and realized that it's the same plot. And I told Miss Brenda while we were chatting while watching this film, separately but together, realizing this was a terrible film, and that The Time Travelers was a better film, not realizing that they just reworded the script and put in psychedelic colors as part of it. So in that way, I thought that was something was less inspired than the Time Travelers. At least that film had some comedy relief in it. There were lab coats. This one had additional people in lab coats back at base, sort of like the Time Tunnel. And to be honest with you, I think Time Tunnel actually got their ideas from this film because it came out a year later in 1968. So in that sense, I thought that, they were stealing from Time Tunnel, but it could be the other way around, unless one of them used something going back in time and used it to their advantage and then took it to the future, which could be. That's entirely possible because we're talking about time travel paradoxes. Is that a paradoxes? Could it be a paradoxi? I don't know. If we've gone back in time and fixed pluralisms, then maybe that would have been an issue. Who knows? Who cares? Nobody does. The characterizations were quite, well, I can't tell you about characterizations because that's the next round. But I found the whole thing kind of it also, the thing that surprises me is that, as was mentioned earlier, what was his name? The suit, the Staten, is the guy running around. He doesn't have a lab coat. He's the only one without a lab coat, and he's suddenly able to fly the spaceship. Or the time machine, or whatever the hell that thing was, the ball. Just unbelievably terrible. And that's what happens with plots like this with time machines, is that how much can you do? You can go back and fix anything if you really want to. The question is, can you make it happen at exactly the time that you want it to happen? The answer is always no, because if you did that, there would never be any reason to even give a damn about anything that's going on, because you could always fix it. Hey, I got question 7 and answer C incorrect, and that failed my opportunity to be a pilot for Southwest Airlines. So instead, I go ahead and answer B, and I get to fly. And now I'm a pilot with Southwest. How easy is it? Think about that. So there you have it. That's what I think about this one on the plot. So let's see now. I'm looking. There's some comments over here. N5IMS, JJ, he says, if you are a continual college student and end up with both a PhD and an MD, would that be a paradox? Oh, I get it. Okay, it took me a little while. I got it. I figured it out. So you're suggesting 2 doctors. Okay, very good. Let's go to, I'll go ahead and ask if anybody else would like to check in. There's some of our favorite people are missing right now. Not to say that the rest of you are unfavorable. You're very favorable. I love you all equally. Does anyone else want to check in now? Please come with your call sign name. Did you see Journey to the Center of Time from 1967 with Lyle Wagner? Man, what a tough group. Okay, let me go to the top of the list. KG Mike over in Richardson, you did have comments on the characterization. Go ahead. What do you got for us?
This is KG5P. Well, characterization was, they're all pretty flat. The Stanton, I guess his name was, I think somebody already mentioned this. I was going to mention it too. All of a sudden he knew how to drive the time machine. He was turning knobs and pushing levers, and you know, I thought he was just like the money bags behind the operation, but he seemed to know how to drive the thing. Scientist, she had a lab coat, so I could tell she was a scientist, but she was, you know, walking around with her stiletto heels, and she had her big hair. Wasn't really a love interest. Well, I guess I don't know if she was a love interest or not. I never got into that far, but there was no love triangle in there. They could have put that in there too. That might have helped out. Just pretty much that. After that, I went back to sleep. So sorry, Tom. I can't add any more of that. Back to net KG5P.
All right, Mike. Well, I'm going to offer this opportunity to everyone at this point, as this film is failing miserably. If you seem excited and offer great substantive things in a movie that's substantive lists, I will reward you with a good movie for next week, because I'm not sure, but I think I got a dud planned. But I found today an excellent film. A film that you will enjoy, something that everyone has in common on this net. In fact, everyone on radio has in common. It could have an amateur radio science fiction slant, but I'm not going to do it unless I hear enthusiasm about this film first. This is KE5ICX. We're talking about Journey to the Center of Time. KF5TSK, Pearl. What are your enthusiastic comments about characterization in this film?
I would say that Stanton was really kind of strange that, you know, they made one movie to get the space time capsule moving, and he went and got 10 to, I guess, make it all work. You know, if one will make it work, 10 will make it work better. So many things were just so goofy that, you know, the scientists could see themselves on the screen, but I could see Stanton on the screen. He had his shirt open all the way to his belt, but when you looked at him in person, you know, his shirt was buttoned all the way to the collar. It was like, oh, what is that supposed to mean? You know, there was just so much gibberish about, you know, oh, we got to increase power. Increase power. Sound like an amateur radio operator. TF5 TSK back to net.
Okay, Burl, you get a few points for that, but you still come up short. You actually, I could tell in your voice that you were smiling a little, and you did giggle. So that would suggest that you might have liked this film more than you're letting on. So I'm writing this down. Plus 2 points for Burl. Next up, WB5OZL, Miss Brenda. What do you think about the characterization? Come on, I know you got positive things to say because you don't want to watch a dud next week. So WB5OZL, your comments about Journey to the Center of Time.
This is WB5OZL. You are confusing enthusiasm with positivity. I have bad enthusiasm for this movie. I really hate it. Enthusiastically. You want me to say something good about it? It didn't last forever. It was only an hour and a half long. Let's see, what else? Characters. Well, nobody was really ugly. I'll say that. This is very sexist. You know, the women, what were the women doing there? They're not buying that they're real scientists. They're just back there in their shortish skirts and high heels and bouffant hairdos. And just because you put a lab coat on somebody does not make them a scientist, not believably anyway. They didn't seem to do anything except just push buttons. Of course, that happened a lot in Star Trek. I'll have to say that. You know, you didn't know what they were doing. Just random acts. But these are the stupidest scientists ever. They didn't even attempt some what do you call it, technobabble to try and convince us that there was some real science here. Just, you know, I think this is just this side of a zombie movie. Everybody was so stupid. And I feel that way very strongly and enthusiastically. Okay, back to that, WB5OZL.
Seem to have lost 2 points on that one. -2 for Brenda. The dud is looking more realistic here and more probable. KG5BZWJ in Weatherford, what do you have to say about the fine characterization in this film? Please go ahead from KE5ICX.
This is KG5BZW. Yeah, I don't know what to say. And all the characters that we were introduced to, I think they did try to tie in some sort of random romance plot part, which I have to admit I was not really into the film at that time, so I wasn't really. There's not much for any of the characters that were consistent throughout the part I had seen. There's not really much anything for me to latch on to. Goodness. Even the aliens that they encountered, they I don't know. A lot of this, this is just a function of just how little I really even cared to remember about this film. I don't know. I actually thought the aliens were kind of interesting, but you know, before I knew it, they all I guess were getting killed off or something, and then I'll say this: it's not really characterization. I'm sorry, I had a thought and it just left my head. There's an interesting aspect to the film about, you know, even though it's a common trope about, you know, destruction, mankind's self-destructive nature. It was kind of a almost interesting aspect that they could have used the aliens possibly to explain. But even there, it's like, okay, go and there. Let me reset. I was immediately ticked off when they said, "Oh, go and warn the humans back in your own time. What will happen?" Well, there's a presumption that, you know, I think that's one of the things that just kind of angered me the most. Actually, it's like I'm completely avoiding the character segment here. I know I'm going back to plot, but it's just one thing that actually struck me. It's one thing when you have to kind of figure it out yourself, what, you know, the logic paradigm of this, you know, the time paradoxes you're going to have to deal with in this particular narrative structure. But when something is, you know, presumptive, you know, it's like, okay, why are these humans, what are these warnings supposed to do? Is this the warnings that this, you know, future time thing is this an alternate universe is this kind of like not so much you know, real true time travel, but a Christmas Carol type, Ghost of the Future type of warning. This will happen if you don't shake things up. You know, is that what's going on or something? I don't know. That's probably what the writer was thinking, but there's just, it's like, no, you're actually time traveling. You're not really, this is not a prediction. This is what's supposed to actually happen. But anyway, yeah, and that's all I have to say. Even though it's not even related to characters, it was something that I probably should have brought up to the other segment, but just popped up into my head now. Anyway, whatever. KG5BCW.
Jay, I think that was the most eloquent description of this film I've ever heard in my life. It brought a tear to my eye. You hit upon the characters and their essence and motivations through all of that, which was essentially nothing. But you said it so well and so appropriately for this film. I saw you seeking out the words necessary to explain where the character motivations were. Where are the actors going to take the characters above and beyond just simple, you know, a simple science fiction story and elevating it to something, a super simple science fiction story? Now, let's see. My comments. Let me reset. I've never seen so many scientists. These are doctors. Doctor. These are people of science using the scientific method, wandering around saying stupid things and pressing buttons and turning knobs with big, huge signs that tell them what to do. These are the dumbest scientists I have ever seen that are supposed to be smart. So can you have dumb scientists? Well, apparently they're all on this program, Project Dumb Scientist or something like that. So who knew? And what was the deal with they show up, this is the future, this is what could happen to you, and we're at war, and we gotta go because there's lunches at 12 and it's 11:30, and our time machine's broken, so we got to get over to the commissary and get lunch. Really bad. Really, really bad. I don't know what to say, except that the Time Travelers movie was much better. Which is saying something when the bar is so low you can limbo. Okay, let's see. I'll ask if there are any additional late check-ins this evening. We're talking about Journey to the Center of Time from 1967, a remake of the Time Travelers from 1964. Anyone want to join us? Please come now.
AM5 then.
Oh, there's a blast from the past. I know that guy. That's Mike, KM5Z. Welcome to the net. It's good to hear from you. What you got for us this evening?
Much. Haven't seen the movie. I shall just listen. But I wanted to check in. Good evening, everyone.
All right, Mike, I know you're one of those guys that's a night owl, so Saturday nights, after all the kids are in bed, and you're looking for something to damage your brain that doesn't require a beverage or something to smoke, this is the net you should be on from 10:30 until sometimes 12 o'clock. I don't think we're going to make it tonight. We talk about fine films. So we'll let you know. I can't tell you now what the fine film will be because it'll either be a clunker or it'll be really great, depending on how enthusiastic everyone is. And it's beginning to sound like a clunker is in the future. Okay, we're going to the top of the list. This is KE5ICS. We're talking about Journey to the Center of Time. Next up is Mike, KG5P. Put your thinking cap on. Tell us what you thought about the special effects of this fine film. Go ahead.
All right, Thomas, KG5P. Well, special effects were kind of like Star Trek special effects. But that was okay with Star Trek because they had the plot. And they didn't need a whole lot of fancy special effects. This thing needed fancy special effects. And it didn't have either a plot nor special effects. Of the two, I prefer the plot, but when it has none, well, I've already said. But the magic, there was a magical thing that happened, and I'm using my Icon 746 because it's got 2 meters on it. And for a long time, the display had gone out, and I thought that some capacitors had dried up and fried this little transistor that runs the backlight. But mysteriously, after seeing the movie, that my backlight now works again. Now that's a special effect. I don't know what else it could be. Back to net, KG5P.
Oh my. I don't know what to say, Mike, but okay. We'll continue on because I know where this is going, and it's a black hole into the oblivion, into the abyss, and nobody's looking back. Or over their shoulder, for that matter. KF5TSK, Brill, special effects. You better come up with something good. Bad.
This is KF5TSK. Well, one of the things I thought was really unusual was the laser weapons where the Earth people and the aliens were fighting. It was unusual looking, and I don't know if it was something they created, but you know, the set itself was, you know, just overlooking. You know, everything we showed had a tape drive in it, and it was like, you know, even for 1964, who was still using, tape drives. I mean, everyone seems to emphasize that, but, there were disk drives. May not have been big, may not have been fancy, but there were disk drives. Only thing that I can say that, was really good about the film, it moved along. It had somewhat of a story, and, they didn't really run out of, something to do and sit there for 15 minutes and, how do we kill 15 minutes? They kind of got it over with, and I was happy about that. K5TSK back to net.
KG5P recheck.
Oh, Mike, go ahead, and if you want to contact Burl and beat him up, you may do so. You have permission from net control.
Oh, I never beat up Burl. He's one of my extra class students, and I need all of those I can get. No, I was going to say that, well, first I was going to mention that I did like the special effect for the tape drive caught on fire. And then Burl mentioned tape drives too, and yeah, no, they used tape drives probably into the 90s, and certainly through the 80s. But, yeah, the disk drives, they were, in 1964, were very rudimentary. So that was all I had. Thanks. KG5P.
Okie dokie. That was a weak showing, but I have something to say about tape drives later. Let's see. Next is WB5OZL. Miss Brenda, your comments on these very special effects in this film. Go ahead.
WB5OZL. Well, I looked up lasers, and Mr. Google says lasers travel faster than the speed of light. So I guess the science in this is sound. Just ride a laser and you can travel in time. So far as I know, according to Wikipedia here, this is just standard technology with lasers. And I looked up the rubies. Most of them were like shaped, specific shapes, and none of them were just raw chunks of ruby, or piled up chunks of ruby. So I don't know what that's about. I was intrigued by the concept that there's just like a tunnel through the space-time continuum, and they need some traffic rules, like, you need to pass on the right. There was no excuse for these people colliding when they could see each other. Just, go to the right and yield. So that was kind of stupid. I also don't understand why they were viewing the scenes from the past. Of course, everything was the war, various wars, which is okay. During World War II, they saw it as, they could see what was really happening. But as they went back in time, the world became black and white. So I don't know what's up with that. Did it get color later on? I just didn't understand that. And I love the lizard. That was a real brilliant piece of special effects. And this is probably characterization more than special effects, but this is like a teen horror movie. There's horrible noise. Let's all go outside. It's like, how stupid can you get? At least teenagers have the excuse of being young and stupid. But people are supposed to be scientists. What? How does it make sense that, let's all go outside where the danger is? All right, back to that. WB5OZL.
It's KG5P recheck.
All right, thank you, Miss Brenda. And now, Mike, if you get the recheck, you're going to have to bring something positive to the entire synergy here. You realize that. And remember, spelling counts. Go ahead, KG5P.
Oh, okay. Well, Brenda mentioned the lizard. I should have written all these things down and I didn't, so I forgot them all until somebody mentions it. Yeah, that lizard, that was a great lizard. Great lizard. In fact, it reminded me, and it could have been the lizard seen out of Journey to the Center of the Earth, which was made about 1959, 1960 with Pat Boone and James Mason. But yeah, that was a great lizard. Great lizard. It could have been the same lizard for all I know. But that was the best actor in the whole movie, was the lizard. Back to Ned, and thank you for letting me jump in, KG5P. And thank you, Brenda, for bringing up the lizard, because I almost forgot. Back to Ned, KG5P.
Very good, Mike. That's very good. It was upbeat and very true, and I think it did come from Journey to the Center of the Earth. And frankly, probably the script got rewritten, and Pat Boone didn't sing, and nobody sang in this, but that was a good thing. Maybe the lizard should have sung. Okay, I do have my comments on these, but I'm going to save them for later because I want to hear what everybody has in store for us. Jay, near Weatherford, your comments on special effects.
This is KG5BZW. Well, it seems that some of the special effects that were actually, special effects. Sorry, that I could have said that better. Some of the actions that were actual special effects, put it that way, occurred in the half of the film I did not see. Those laser blasts in the war were, oh my goodness, the simplest. I am impressed with the simplicity of it. I mean, those were literally like cartoon cutouts. Triangle here, or not really triangle, but most of them were like, trapezoid here, trapezoid there, or not even trapezoid. Well, framed by the picture. Just really cartoon. There's the makeup effect on the aliens, which I don't know, other than looking odd colored, and I guess the women are, because the male, they're aliens, so who knows what. That I won't get into that, but the apparent, let's just say, human analog of a female or whatever was blue, and the others were gray or something, and I don't know. I didn't think the makeup was that bad. Kind of wish I had seen some of these other aspects. There's the set, which was kind of blah, I almost wonder, what was that movie? It was actually a different, was it? Have we seen the Time Travelers? I'm blanking out here. We saw some movie where it was a lot better than this. Where you saw stuff. What was, I don't remember. I just don't remember. The sets were mildly interesting. But not really. And gosh, like I said, it seems like there might have been some stock footage, but I can't remember what that was. Can't say I got anything else. So, this is KG5BCW. Back to net.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Let's see. Yes, we did see the Time Travelers. It was a constant loop at the end of the film, and then that was the end. They tried to do that inadequately in this remake, but it did not work. Let's see. Next is, where are we? Oh, I guess it's me. Okay, what did I want to say? I had some comments about the special effects. First off, Burl mentions the tape drives. Did you notice all the tape drives with the random feed and take-up reels? They had nothing going to them. They didn't even make any sense. There were 3 here and 2 over here and all that. The orange wall was nice. There's a lot of beiges in this, which means I guess the blue was missing from this film, so it's mostly beige. So you get that. I thought, let's see, what else? The tape drives and whether they existed or not. And yeah, they did, lots of them. There were some disk drives that were coming online about that time. If you see the film, really, what was it? The Forbin Project, Colossus the Forbin Project, which we reviewed by, 3 years ago. It had tape drives in it. So that movie came out in 1970. So this one's 67. So 3 years later, so maybe hard drives were starting to show up. It was pretty iffy then, and I know my own history in the 70s, and we had tape drive systems even then, so it did stay on board for a long time. Hard drives were very, very expensive back then. I love WB50ZL's comments about, I was going to mention about special effects. There's a lot of time where they go and they show scenes from old movies of the ships battling each other, in the 1700s. We've got the Civil War, we've got all these things, and they go on and on and on because they have to fill out 15 minutes, 20 minutes of time. There's a lot of nothing going on in this thing, and when the base, the time tunnel base, or whatever the hell they're called, the space-time continuum tunnel people, they're busy increasing power and locating and delocating and doing all that, and everybody's in lab coats. And Brenda, you were going to talk about the lab coats. That's coming up on the free-for-all, which is lab coats when you think about it. It's just nothing, it just is filler. That's it. I think they should have used a juggler and a mime, and the juggler shoots the mime with, I don't know, the juggling balls or something. I don't know. In any case, yeah, I agree. This one was a real dud. I had not seen this before. It's in color. JJ says N5IMS, although the sound was only mono, it was in color. And he uses upper and lower case to indicate color. Also, it was shot in 35 millimeter and was released in 35 millimeters, so there was no loss with the transfer thing from negative to what was shipped to the theater. I disagree. There was a loss of characterization, plot, and storyline. That's all I have to say on that one. Okay, well, this is KE5ICX, and unfortunately I'm the net control for this thing. Let's go ahead and open it up. The doggy wants outside, so I'm going to do that first. But think about and then check in with any final comments on Journey to the Center of Time. If you're a late check-in, you can do so too. You don't have to comment about the movie. Anybody, anywhere, please come now with your call sign if you have something final to say about this film.
B50ZL.
Okay, Hey, you're the one. WB50ZL. Miss Brenda, go ahead.
Oh dear, the pressure. Well, you said it was in color. You're right. It was in one color, orange. It wasn't in colors. I don't know if that was intentional or just maybe a budgetary thing. All they had was orange paint. I don't know. The lab coats. Well, I will say the costumes were not unfortunate. I think people just wore their clothes, and then they had some lab coats that they put over their clothes, and that was their excuse for costuming. So, I was thinking about some other good things about it. There were no annoying children in it. Barbara Streisand didn't sing. They didn't have ham radio. They were trying to pass off as equipment on a spaceship. And we've seen that before. So, okay, I'm glad I saw it. I'll say that because we have a lot to talk about now, and it just adds to the experience of my life. And but I don't want to see it again. I'm moving on. This is WB50ZL.
Okie dokie. Well, you had the final word on this fine film, and we will never talk about it again. We're going to bury it. We're not even going to consider a time capsule for this one. So what are we going to watch next week? Well, if you have the Facebook page, Afterglow Movie, those are two words, Afterglow and Movie, and sign up. You can be a part of this. Some of you are. If you want to be a part of the email, just send an email to Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-Ray, KE5ICX@yahoo.com, and say you want to join the Afterglow Movie Group. I'll put you on there and tell you what the film is going to be. Except that, whatever the film is going to be, I've changed my mind. I found today available online, perfectly legal, because that's what we do, Frequency. I think it's from, I can't remember, 1996, I think it's from. Frequency, ham radio du jour, and it has, are you ready for it? Time travel! And the time travel paradoxes. You might as well get the full nosebleed if you're going to enjoy it. So this is actually a pretty good film. I enjoyed watching it today. I'm going to watch it again. It has ads in it. I will send the links out to you. It's on Tubi. Tubi.tv, I think, or Tubi.com. Tubi is Tubi.com or TV.tv. I'm not sure which. But at any rate, you'll find it there if you don't follow me here as far as, whatever the film is going to be. So I'm going to put that one up only because I just found it today and I don't know how long it will stay up. So we had, I don't know how many people we had. We had, oh boy, 8 people tonight who checked in. Actually 9, including KM5Z, Mike. So we'll see you next week. We get to go to bed early tonight by 15 minutes. See you again. See you on the radio. Bye-bye, everyone. And remember, bye bonds. KE5ICX. I'm clear. Mike, you saying hi or bye?
There are different frequencies that travel at different, slightly different speeds, I think. But Frequency is an awesome movie. I've only seen part of it actually, but it does a plot twist. Transmits on an old TV receiver, which is another thing. That's very interesting.
Oh, yeah, and there's tons of conundrums, too. What do you do with What do you do with a person who's licensed in 1969 but talking in 1990 and is either dead or their license has expired? What does the FCC do? And even more importantly, the Time Travel Commission.
Is time communicating, but wait, well, here's another thing. If the guy in the future is transmitting on the heath-kit receiver, and the guy in the past is also transmitting on the same heath-kit, what does that mean?
I know! What if the 12AU6 goes out? The audio tube, does it go out in both radios?
There are different electrons passing through it, but I don't know. That's kind of a conundrum right there. They're using the same equipment at different times.
I go.
Well, okay, I've got this friend in New Zealand, and New Zealand is either 17 or 19 hours ahead of us, depending on whether we're on daylight saving time or not, and they are or not. But I've always thought, since they're ahead of us, why couldn't he, if he could get the stock market quotations, because the stock market closes over there before it opens over here, being 17 hours ahead of us, then he could send me the quotations of when it closes, and then I could, I could, do my stock trading and then split the difference with him. Why would that not work?
Well, how would you get the money to him? Would you send a radiogram?
I could probably use, PayPal or something like that.
Oh, I suppose. Well, it looks like Mike ran away. He's gone. He comes in, makes a comment, leaves, and that's the last time I'll hear from him for another 5 years.
No. I was just thinking, I was being polite. Let me think. Well, I have to think on that. Actually, that's very interesting because that would mean that you can do time travel today by making contact in New Zealand and anywhere west of the dateline and east of Greenwich, right?
All right, because they're on the other side of the international dateline, so it's really tomorrow over there.
Until the next day.
I think we got a double in there.
Sorry. I think they probably would hold the stock transactions until the next day just to make it fair.
I mean, they could hold it for a day. I don't care. It has to clear anyway.
The bad argument about what you're saying is that between New Zealand and the U.S., it's going to be some countries in between, so they will determine what the price will be. Can't find TSK back to that.
That's right, arbitrage, I guess. I'm waiting for the moon to come back out. It got obscured by clouds.
There's always the Asian market. They'll start trading tomorrow. Trading the futures, and I don't want to trade futures. I just want to trade regular, options. Or securities are fine enough for me.
You'd have to convert them to yuan or yen or something. AM 5 then, 4 Australian dollars.
U.S. dollars are, and Australian dollars were 75 U.S. cents, so, you know, we'd come out ahead on that deal.
Yeah, 25% gain. That's amazing. I'm going to do that tomorrow. Well, Monday. Wait, tomorrow.
You're going to start trading tomorrow, and then when the market opens here, I'll already know what their prices are going for. All I'll have to do is I'll say, well, I don't know what I would say. I have to think about this. This time travel stuff gets complicated. Well, with that, I'll have to go sleep on it, so that's what I'm going to do now. KG5P clear.